Good morning and welcome to the swearing-in ceremony for Dr. Shon Barnes as he becomes the next Chief of Police for the City of Madison. I'm MPD's Public Information Officer, Tyler Grigg. We have a small gathering here today which includes family and friends of Dr. Shon Barnes and a few other distinguished guests. Thank you all for coming. And to those of you who are streaming in live, thank you for watching. Today is an historic day as Dr. Shon Barnes becomes the 30th Chief of Police for the City of Madison. I would like to take a moment and express appreciation for Acting Chief of Police Vic Wall, who has led MPD for the past 16 months through some of the most difficult times by the Madison community and the Madison Police Department. We look forward to this next chapter and all that Shon Barnes will bring to the community and department. In a moment, Mayor Rhodes Conway will give opening remarks. She will be followed by Police and Fire Commissioner member Jacqueline Bogus, who will administer the oath of office. After the oath, Dr. Stephanie Dance Barnes will pin the badge on her husband with closing remarks by Chief Shon Barnes. Now I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Rhodes Conway.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's been said that we can't have a strong vision for our future without acknowledging the past and who has helped us to get where we are today. So I want to begin this ceremony by thanking Interim Chief Vic Wall for serving as Madison's chief during a historically challenging year. Certainly for a police chief, but also for the entire department, for policing as a profession, for the larger Madison community, and everyone who has navigated a pandemic and difficult social issues, a struggling economy, and a challenging year for all of us. Thank you, Chief Wall. Appreciate your service. And I want to welcome incoming Chief Barnes to that same challenging landscape, which is rife with opportunity for fundamental positive change. In our early conversations, I found that Chief Barnes and I have a few things in common. We both love data. In fact, Dr. Barnes, during his doctoral studies, used data to reveal unsettling disparities in rates that white and black drivers were pulled over by officers for traffic stops. He regularly brings data together with community ingenuity to create new solutions, like he did when he created the Police and Community Together Coalition of Greensboro, North Carolina, successfully lowering rates of crime and rates of arrest through intentional partnerships. With a strong foundation based in data, I trust that Chief Barnes and I can work together for data-driven solutions, like our pledge to reimagine public safety and to create a behavioral health crisis response unit, both of which our incoming chief has already shown support for. We also both bring perhaps a certain East Coast honesty as Madison transplants. My experience in having grown up on the East Coast, lived in California, and now being firmly rooted in the Midwest is that there's slightly different sensibilities in these different regions. But Barnes does have a Madison connection. For a brief moment in 1976, I won't admit how old I was then, Barnes's mother came to Madison following her brother to find a new home for her and her family. While she didn't stay here, I'm happy to say that Shon Barnes has returned to call Madison home, finding here a community that will be looking to him for an honest and direct approach to complex community problems and solving those problems with the community. Another thing we have in common is that we both welcome debate, and we highly value educating ourselves in evolving best practices. We may not agree on everything, but we have much to teach each other. And I think that incoming Chief Barnes is used to those tough conversations and educating while listening. Not only did our incoming chief begin his professional life as a school teacher before transitioning into a career in law enforcement, but he also comes to us from COPA, the body responsible for investigating accusations of misconduct in the Chicago Police Department. In that role, he worked closely with the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, so he's well equipped with the knowledge that our newly created Civilian Oversight Board will need to carry out its mission. Personally, I'm looking forward to working with Chief Barnes and our whole community to increase safety, resilience, and equity in Madison. And now, I'm honored to welcome Jacqueline Bojas, a member of our Police and Fire Commission, to swear in Madison's new police chief, Dr. Shon Barnes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to Jacqueline Bojas, I also invite Dr. Shon Barnes and his family for the oath of office.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay. Repeat after me and raise your hand. I, Shon F. Barnes,
I, Shon F. Barnes,
who have been appointed to the office of Chief of Police of the City of Madison,
who have been appointed as Chief of Police for the City of Madison,
but have not yet entered into the duties thereof, affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Charter of the City of Madison,
and the Charter of the City of Madison,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd first like to begin by thanking the mayor for her kind words and the Police Fire Commission for the monumental work they delivered in the candidate process over the last year. I am humbled by your trust and by your confidence. I would like to thank the many public safety executives that have traveled many miles to be with us today. We have officials representing Sacramento, California, Arlington, Texas, and Greensboro, North Carolina, where I began my career over 20 years ago, and Salisbury, North Carolina as well. It is important to remember that today marks the 61st anniversary of the Greensboro sit-in movement, a non-violent protest which began when 4 young men, college students from my alma mater, North Carolina Agricultural and State University, sat down at a Woolworth counter and realized the power of change. I stand today on their shoulders. I would like to acknowledge Chief Wall for all he has done to improve our community as the Chief of Police. I look forward to working with you and learning from you, sir. I would like to thank my family, who has sacrificed a lot over the course of my nearly 3 decades of public service. They have stood by me every single step of the way, oftentimes sacrificing their own personal needs. My wife, Stephanie, in particular. She has been a steady calm, my rock, and an inspiration to me and anyone who has ever met her. She is an inspiration and the leader of our family and our children, Ashley, Aiden, and Addison. I love you all. It would be difficult to envision seeing me as a chief of police in one of the most premier law enforcement organizations in the country given the start of my life. I grew up in the housing projects in a small rural town in North Carolina. I witnessed my first fatal act of gun violence at age 12. It was a tough neighborhood that required me to grow up fast. I was raised by an amazing single mother who had me just shy of her 18th birthday. The lessons I learned from her and the man she would marry several years later, my dad, the late Thornton Boone, made me the man I am today. Integrity, honor, and service were their core principles, having raised 2 police officers and a daycare worker. Those have been the very principles that I continue to live by today. The principles my wife and I work tirelessly to instill in our children. Service has been in my DNA since I began my professional career as a high school teacher in the public school system. I may have been a teacher, but I learned as much as I taught. I learned how to connect with young people on a personal level, and being an educator taught me the value of empathy and helped to shape my worldview. I applied those lessons I gleaned as a teacher during my leadership roles throughout my policing career. This is arguably one of the most challenging times for law enforcement in our history. And while some are abandoning the profession or approaching our challenges with cynicism, I am more than ready to embrace the challenges with open arms, an open heart, and most importantly, an open mind. You will find that my administration is one that will be based on respect, communication, and collaboration. I will lead by committee, a team approach, and participative leadership. I spent the last 4 weeks listening closely, both internally and from our community members. I've learned from a young community advocate who told me that truth and reconciliation is a process and that it is possible. I learned about Frances Huntley Cooper, the first and only elected African-American mayor in the history of the state of Wisconsin. She is a proud graduate of my alma mater, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, and a member of my wife's sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Community feedback and insight has and always will continue to be critical in allowing me to shape the direction of this department under my leadership. Crime prevention will be a priority for my administration. We will be laser focused on violent crime prevention and reduction through innovative initiatives and partnerships in the criminal justice system and in the private sector. Violent crime reduction will also require us to examine alternative solutions to discretionary arrest of lower level offenses. Clearly, we have to understand we cannot always arrest our way out of problems. No less of a priority will be community engagement through effective partnerships. We are never going to move the needle and earn community trust until we recognize how the community wants to be policed. That will require all of us, every single one of us, coming together. We must make this community safer and our department the national model for exceptional policing. Whether it's community activists or anyone else who wants to meet us halfway and discuss how we can come together and do better for this community, I am all in. The community provides the Madison Police Department with its authority to police. They should have a say in how they want to be served. It's difficult to care for a community, though, if we're not taking care of ourselves. That's why my administration will prioritize employee wellness through accountability. Sadly, what often gets overshadowed in policing is the human side of policing. It's sometimes easy to forget that there are men and women who are serving our community in the middle of a global pandemic. They deserve our support and our respect. We will work to develop work-life balance programs for all our employees, promote activities that maintain a positive staff and a family atmosphere at the Madison Police Department. We will develop support programs for employees who are in need. I know that I have outlined an ambitious blueprint for the future of our department and how we will serve our community, but I also know it is attainable. It's going to require all of us together to roll up our sleeves and get to work. I understand that there are different opinions and ideas concerning the direction some people want to take this police department. I respect that. I welcome that. We will never reach a level of success as a community or a department until all voices are heard and all opinions discussed. In August of 2020, I had the opportunity to visit the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. I sat with two of my good friends, law enforcement executives, Tarek McGuire and Obed Magny, and we had an opportunity to then walk from Selma to Montgomery, 54 miles. Along that way, we learned a lot. We met many kind people of all races, colors, and creeds who stopped to offer us encouragement, food, water, or anything else that we wanted. We learned a lot about our country, about our society. But what we learned most is that we have far more in common than we do differences. I am ready, I am willing, and I am flat out eager to begin this journey with you, all of you, together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief, and welcome to the Madison Police Department and the City of Madison. Well, that concludes today's swearing-in ceremony. Thank you for attending.